Hello, and welcome to Apocalypticast. I am Chris Vlamakis,
I am Zachary Ballard.
I'm Josh to me.
and today we are going to be reviewing and discussing the classic 1978 film Halloween. Just to keep in theme with the Halloween season, and there really isn't much more to say about that. About what's more Halloween than the movie Halloween? Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, we could just let's just get started right into it.
All
Zach.
right. Cool. So first is theme. What do you guys think the theme is?
Existence of pure evil without a conscience.
I think the theme is the boogeyman's gonna get you whether you like it or not.
Yeah, this show obviously doesn't have like a necessarily a like social theme or like trying to give
No.
you an underlying message or anything. But yeah, obviously it's just like the theme is just supposed to give you that a dread of like unknown forces at work in a sense. Like maybe you know what's going on, but what really is going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't honestly quite sure about what the theme really was. It just kind of seemed that this was kind of the movie, and it was that was that, you know.
Well, I mean, like, really, the theme is what creative ways can we kill these people
Yeah.
with a knife and nothing else?
Yeah. I will say I really like the death where he stabs the guy up
So
on the
hard
wall.
into the wall that he just
Yeah,
sticks there.
that was the best death in the whole show, in my
Oh,
opinion, at least.
I love that.
Yeah. Um.
No, I
Okay.
think you're wrong, Chris. I think the best death was when he got stabbed in the neck and he just abruptly fell on the floor.
But he didn't die.
That's true. That's
He
true.
didn't.
But we thought he did.
Unless there's 12 of him running around. There was 12 escapees.
That's why it
There's
seems
no
like he can't
mystical
die.
there's no mystical nature about it. There's 12 escapees. They all found the same mask, the same jumpsuit, and they're all fucking, oh, he got stabbed, and then immediately dragged his body off, and they're like, well, now I'm going to get this bitch.
Yeah.
You killed my friend.
Kill my friend. Then he gets shot, and like he falls over, and the one guy doesn't see the dude slumped over, and he shoots another person.
Yeah. I want to see that.
Yeah, I want to see the behind the scenes on that. Yeah.
All right. So, again, not very theme heavy, at least in my opinion. But so let's move on to writing and story. We yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I think the writing was super straightforward. It's not schlocky like a lot of the 70s horror ended up being. It feels fairly natural when they're talking with each other. And I mean, the story is really just there was this kid, Michael, who lost his goddamn mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, the story wise, yeah, it doesn't have to be like movies like this don't have to be.
No.
Yeah, they don't have to be. Yeah, as a kid, for some reason or another, he lost his mind, and then he spent the vast majority of his life in an insane asylum, where he just simply one day he found a chance to escape and decided to come home and commit even more murders.
Yep.
And so they added, obviously they added the superhuman or supernatural element. I'm not sure exactly what their original intent was. Maybe just to be like, oh, he's still out there, kind of thing. When he's not, his body isn't there. But obviously, he had to have some sort of, either he was so disconnected from being a human that even like massive bodily harm doesn't really stop him because he got stabbed, he got shot several times, or there is a supernatural thing to him.
Yeah, I mean, going based just off of the single movie, not thinking about any of the sequels.
Yeah.
Having him disappear at the end was 100% sequel bait.
Yeah, I can imagine it, but like stuff like that, I don't know, because there was a lot of new things like that movie. Who knows if it would have been a flop, because they and so like especially with just like at the time, like I had I didn't realize there was like several scenes of like nudity in the movie, and like late 70s there were like that was still pretty like hush hush, no
Yeah.
like that. And then literally the movie opens up with like, oh well, there's boobs. It's like there were
Boobs out.
and I'm just like, holy crap, like like obviously it's rated R for violence as well, but I was just thinking they got away with this, and that was obviously a big risk that they had to have taken in 1978, where certain things would automatically get you an R rating, or if not, just get you a no rating, and you wouldn't be able to show the film.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, John Carpenter kind of did that with a lot of his movies.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. But like within like 5 years of that, it started becoming more and more of a thing, because I think I think one of the big ones, and this I think that was like 1982, was like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, like that. Like that's the whole her coming out of the pool scene, and it's just like I think that is what sparked like, man, this is famous, this has become a cult classic movie, people love it, and then a bunch of people were like, maybe we should stop, like loosen the grip on being prudish in a sense.
Yeah.
And like Dazed and Confused.
Yeah. Zach?
As far as story went, I didn't I know it's sort of the appeal of it, but I didn't like how it didn't explain in more detail on why he can't die.
Yeah, so
It doesn't
that's
really make
a
sense to me.
yeah, that's a little bit of an issue for me as well. And like I've mentioned before, for anybody who's listened to our original podcast, I'm not a huge horror fan, and so sometimes, obviously, this genre you have to suspend is one of the genres you have to suspend the most disbelief in, and it, in a sense, it's just like, okay, yeah, his therapist said, okay, this guy is a murderer, he's a killer, he's not human, kept calling him a beast over and over again. But yeah, it didn't really explain, why is it that he could get stabbed that hard in the neck and get up and be able to do all those things, get shot several times and get up and do all these certain
Take
things.
a hanger through the eyeball.
Yeah, and so I think that is supposed to be the like more of a supernatural aspect. Now, to me, I think it should have done a little bit more throughout the entirety of the movie to show supernatural, because like the whole movie made it seem like this guy was just a deranged killer who is separated from being a human and everything like that, and he did that. But then at the very 10-15 minute end of the show, they started displaying like, holy crap, there's something like otherworldly happening to him, and I think it could have speckled it a little bit more in the first half of the movie at least.
Yeah, it could have had like more exposition on it. I think like the thing with it is that it just felt like, oh, okay, we have Michael Myers, and then we have this story of him basically following these kids around, and then he kills the kids. So to me, like the story was straightforward, but it wasn't a very compelling story to me. Just because that was it. That was the whole story. So
yeah, I mean, I guess this does come at a time in slasher history where the couple of slashers we had went to like extreme lengths to explain their villains. Like we had Psycho, that like Norman Bates is very well explained throughout that entire movie. And Black Christmas, where you never actually see the killer, he doesn't have a name, but all of his motives are like laid out bare in front of you. And I mean, Halloween came along and it just streamlined and simplified all of that, so you weren't wasting time on exposition. And they do hint throughout him just following them that there is something more to him than just being a guy, because he is constantly just disappearing around corners.
Yeah, that is true. That I'll give you that. That is true. I felt like they could just half a step more would have made it a little bit.
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing with you guys. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
stating.
Since we're on the subject of writing and like we just talked about the plot, I want to talk about dialogue writing for a moment and how
Okay.
my
Wow.
God, there was some horrendous dialogue, especially from the female characters in this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one point. There's several points where it's just like the voices fade into the background because our visual we're focusing on him. Like she's looking at him, like hiding behind the bush and stuff like that. But then it's not faded enough to where you don't hear what they're saying. So you hear what they're saying, and she's literally just rambling on and on and on and on, and none of the other people are talking to her, and it's like, what is she on drugs? All the
It was
female
about the
characters,
books, right?
all the female characters, including including the main one, which they all are written like they're mentally retarded. I mean, the writing for Annie, how on earth did she get stuck in that window? How
Right?
on earth she tries opening the window and there's a basket, a very obviously easy to move basket in the way of opening this window that I could fit through very easily, and I'm probably twice her size, and
Mhm.
she's been locked in that room for 0.2 seconds and starts having a panic attack, and then she gets stuck, in a way where it's very obvious that they wanted to show a shot of her ass and just her panties. And I'm sitting here being like, how stupid, like this little girl comes up and just opens the window slightly more and she's able to get out. Um like the best female writing happens at the very end, and she's doing is crying and screaming and running for her life, and that's the best part of the female writing.
No, I think the best part of the female writing comes when Lori is talking with the kids. Anytime she's
Okay,
talking with
yeah,
the
I'll
kids.
give you that. Yes, I'll give you that. She very much seemed like a person that was very in tune with being able to talk with children. Like she had been babysitting for quite some time.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't think about that.
I think that it was so funny watching it because like you said, the part where she just started talking about the books and she's like, you don't really need books. I mean,
Yeah,
like
that's the part I was talking about. Like, you don't need books. Like, I just have these books. I've never brought my books. And then she starts listing off like 6 different subjects, and I'm just like, is this scene happening? I paused it for a moment. And I was like, what? What?
yeah,
Awesome.
watching it, I looked over at Alina. I'm like, the writer obviously didn't know what high school girls sounded like how they
Yeah.
spoke. Like,
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, and like there was also some really, really like more than on the nose and tongue in cheek, like fucking punch you in the face dialogue. Like there was a dialogue where it's like fate never changes. Dialogue is
Oh
what I
yeah.
wrote here in my notes, and I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. But then something like that happened 3 or 4 more times throughout the movie, and I'm like, okay, you're trying to sow like destiny and fate like theme and everything like that, but human beings don't talk like this.
yeah,
Like I like if I say something stupid like that, I'm doing it for a joke or for a bit or anything like that, and it's just okay. But like even then, you look at me and say, "What are you trying to get at?" Like you're acting weird. But then these people are like, "Oh yes, the fate never changes." It does like a 2 sentence like Shakespearean soliloquy about life and death, and then they get back on with their normal high school teenage life.
uh-huh.
But like high schoolers, a lot of like normal average talk and
Yeah.
dialogue, it just doesn't happen like that.
Also the bullying of the kid, I can't remember his name, but they just kept
Oh yeah,
repeating
Tommy.
boogeyman, boogeyman, and it's like, yeah, when I got bullied as a kid, that's exactly what happened to me. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, especially at least until like maybe the early 2000s is when they started portraying actual school bullying like in reality. Because that sort of stuff they want to do over the top, and they have done over the top to make you really feel for the person being bullied and really hate the bullies themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, that was really, that honestly, it was corny and kind of generic and everything like that. But I think that actually served its purpose in the sense of, yeah, you hate those three kids that are bullying this kid, and you get a real sense of the kid's demeanor and how he lives his life and everything.
Yeah. So
I
after
wanted to. I had some trivia about that scene that you guys were talking about, where he's behind the bush. And she's talking about the books.
Yeah.
That wasn't written. They were told
really?
that their mics were going to be completely cut and there wouldn't be any sound there. So she was just ad-libbing that whole thing.
Well, she did a bad job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it's just...
but like...
Well, why would they put that in the movie?
They didn't cut the mic.
Yeah,
it was tied with the footage. It probably was tied with the footage, so they probably couldn't do anything with it.
I think they could have taken it out, but
it may not have seemed that silly to them in editing. Who knows?
They might have thought that this was a good idea. We'll just tone it down a little bit so that people aren't listening to it. But no,
some of the I don't know. It's talking about the deaths themselves. Also feel under the writing category.
So.
You think so? Okay, so we talked about the death of the boyfriend when he was choked out and stabbed through the body.
What's his name? Bob?
Yes, let me pull up.
I think his name's Bob.
Bab?
Bab.
So yeah, it is Bob.
Bob.
So the death of Bob I thought was really cool because it's just like it showed like how they wrote it and how they did it was just like, okay, it showed him like with true terror. It showed how strong Michael was. It showed how intense like his killing capability was, and then them writing in like he hung there, I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Annie, when she gets killed in the car, now this might be a cinematography thing, but it made me laugh because I thought it was really badly done.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It didn't look like the knife actually even came in contact with her body.
Yeah.
And Annie again just was like portrayed as like a frail female doll character, and it like her and her and a lot of the other female characters when they when they were fighting back made it seem like there wasn't any, like, I understand he's supposed to be like superhuman strong and everything, but like he's taken aback when he is like when he's stabbed in the eye and stabbed in the neck. So when they're bashing against his arm and everything, it doesn't seem like they actually know. Like when a fight or flight kicks in, you're breaking elbows, you're breaking bones and everything, and it just doesn't seem like they actually fought back.
Well, and like if they were actually fighting as hard as they were flailing, and he just was that inhuman monster that Michael Myers is supposed to be, they would be breaking their own bones, right?
That's true. I'll give you that. My main thing is just like how some of them were written / choreographed.
Oh yeah.
Just really, I just don't know, because like I know like it's not like none of this is coming from its age. I'm not judging any of this because of the age of the movie. There have been good movies since the beginning of filming, obviously. And it's just, this definitely seemed like there wasn't like some double checking, or like the writers didn't know how to write that sort of stuff, or they wrote that sort of stuff and then when it came off the paper into reality, no one chose to rewrite or reshoot it.
Yeah. I do like the blonde teenage girl that sleeps with Bob. Her death. Mostly because you're seeing Michael, but you're not seeing
Linda.
Michael. He's wearing that. Yeah, Linda. He's wearing
Well,
that.
okay, yeah,
That sheet. That is
was pretty
terrifying.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. It was just like him just standing there. It's like, okay, yeah, we know who he is, but she doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Although, where did Michael get the tombstone?
No, he stole it earlier in the movie.
He did?
Yeah.
It
Loomis goes and sees it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it was a short scene. He drove to the cemetery. He was with
The
somebody.
sheriff.
It was either yeah, he was either with the sheriff or the guy who helped to like run the cemetery and everything. And they went to his sister's plot, and his sister's plot, where it would have been, had the tombstone ripped out of it.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it was a really short scene, so
Um,
understandable.
all right, so since we talked about dialogue, period, we don't really need to delve into. It was 80s.
Late 70s, early 80s. It could fit in those
It hit that
genres.
70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Well,
That
But
decade era shift.
I think dialogue is a good streamline into acting and character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not like a lot of the acting, honestly.
Yeah, it was really tough for me too. Now, like, I cannot decipher what was bad writing in some cases for the
Bad
women
acting.
versus bad acting. Now, it's just like,
Yeah.
when it came to some of the freak out scenes, like at the very beginning, the nurse character who was freaking out because the hand reached in to grab her, and the very end where Lori was just being attacked, like them being like freaking out, a lot of that I thought was pretty good. But then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, here's the actor being genuine, because they probably were only given the direction, okay, act as if your life is actually in danger right now. Like, that probably was the only direction they were given, and so that was the most genuine and the least scripted thing that they could do.
But when it came to acting natural, it was like it was so off and bad, and it was like,
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, like, there were especially a couple for phone call conversations where, like, she was talking, and like the one where her friend went off and was like, and told her that she had asked the boy that she was liking out for her, and she, like, the way she delivered some of those lines would not be like, in that sort of scenario, like, a high school girl would freak out and be like, "What? You didn't? What the hell?" Like, that kind of stuff, where she's like, "No, you didn't. Oh, come on, you're joking." And she delivered, and it was kind of a lot of flat delivery.
The whole time.
but that's kind of the time period as well. Like a lot of movies like that. Like, it's like, come on, you didn't do that. You know?
I mean, you look at certain things, and it's like that year had a lot of very interesting things. And like, if you look at the late 70s, I was looking at some of the stuff, and like, I don't think you can blame the year. It's just like, within that time period, you have, like, let me just pull up.
Superman, Death on the Nile.
We don't talk about that Superman.
I Spit on Your Grave, Grease.
Yeah, Grease actually came out the same exact year.
Cheech and Chong, Up in Smoke. These are all from 1978.
Cheech and Chong. That's funny.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
What?
There was like, okay, but then, like, let's look at like more dramatic pieces. Like in the late 70s, the movie Patton came out. There was a lot. There was
The Wiz came out in 1978.
Yeah, there was like the original, like, not the original. The Planet of the Apes movies came out in this era. There was a couple years. I think One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out around this era as too. It's like there's good acting, and like if you look at, especially like as stage actors and everything like that, we perform a lot of pieces that came from well before this era.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, there's characterization and everything in there too. I don't know what their direction was when it came to this. And again, it falls back to, and this is just a horror trope that may have kind of started with like really solidified with this movie, about like women having poor dialogue and being stupid within horror movies like this, which is a
Yeah.
very unfortunate thing. And so that kind of added to it. And like I don't know what to say. Like it's tough. Like the acting fell flat for me in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Looking at other straight up horror and specifically slashers in this time,
Yeah.
this was pretty much the best that you were going to get, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, for some reason during this time, the horror and the slashers, and I don't know why it's so hard to get good actors for horror films. Is it because they're low budget? Is it like
yeah, they're generally low budget. Jamie
Yeah.
Lee Curtis is genuinely a great actress.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, definitely. I'm not. Yeah, definitely.
But it was just, I don't know. It was like they were low budget. They needed to be done within like a month.
And there were certain genres of movies that were looked down upon.
That's true.
Slashers is one of them. This movie is actually what brought slashers up more into the mainstream so that people would want to watch them.
Yeah, like at this point in time, like going again for the late 70s, like the first Star Wars movie came out about a year or so after this movie came out, and like nobody, including some of the actors in the movie, like Alec Guinness, thought thought that genre was like really that good in any sort of way. Like they looked down upon it, and like they wanted to do more dramatic pieces, they wanted to do more serious pieces, even the ones that are like some people would consider somewhat silly now, like a lot of those westerns or the spaghetti westerns, when all those Italian directors came over to direct all those now like iconic, but if you look at them, kind of silly westerns. It's just like they even put those at a higher tier, and they would just be like, either I'm going to come in and spend a couple weeks shooting and get paid and get out, kind of thing with horror movies, or I'm not going to do them.
Yeah, and John Carpenter specifically wanted to change that, but he was still under pressure from studios to just shoot things as quickly as possible. This basically had, I think they had like 3 weeks to film this entire movie.
Well, it didn't seem like it. Honestly, it didn't seem like it needed much more than that. There isn't a whole lot going on. Like, I see that.
So just kind of interesting how like, because I've noticed making films that like that we sort of worry less about acting because we have so many other things to worry about, that like you kind of need like an acting coach there to make sure that the acting's like solid, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe the time constraints, I would also say, probably made it so that they had to go with like the first or second shots of things.
Yeah.
And maybe that, like what we said before, like why was this left in, or why did they keep this scene? Maybe it's because they did that and that was the only night they could have filmed in the abandoned house. Maybe that was the only night they could do it, or maybe it was the only time. Maybe it, like, because also, like, if they have that time constraint, if it rained one of those days, that would make it so that they probably couldn't film.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so should we talk about directing? Directing, I thought it was good. I thought it was fine. Like,
I mean, I think the directing really shines when it comes to the cinematography and
definitely
framing of everything. Because when you get down to it, like the movie, if you turned off sound and you weren't paying attention to, the voices, this is a suspenseful movie, and you're gonna feel that. And I think that's where the directing really comes through. Is just it is shot suspenseful.
Yeah, for sure. I thought the blocking was really natural. I thought Like I didn't notice anything super wrong with like the shots and the blocking. I think that the directing was just solid.
Well, and another thing, and this might be a good segue into set and location. Um, they only shot on one interior set for the houses. The interior of both houses is exactly the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just moved furniture around.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I didn't notice, so that means they did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, I noticed because they didn't change the fireplace at all. They didn't even dress it differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that just shows that like certain things that like stuff like that, if you change enough like minor details, it won't be known.
yeah, I think that's really interesting, and that goes to show like shoestring budget, like just use the same house, just change things up a bit, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just like, and that also like that just shows some of the like skill of some of the people they probably had with them and of his vision, where it just shows that like that simple change fooled me at least.
Yeah.
Well, and they shoot it completely differently in each house too. When you're in the house that Annie's babysitting at,
Yeah.
the front door is always on the right of the screen,
Yeah,
and when
yeah.
you're in the house that Lori's
Oh,
at, it's always
that's
on the
cool.
left of the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, you're right.
So
Interesting.
I was watching it, and I had to rewatch it so that I could like actually pick those little details out because it
Hmm.
was bugging me the whole time I watched it the first time.
Wow, that's cool.
Awesome.
All right, so we were talking about like framing and stuff. And I thought the cinematography was pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought so too.
I thought like they had some really cool shots of like really suspenseful shots. Like I loved every shot where you were seeing over his shoulder.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
those are my like where he gets into that cop car, or was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Loomis's car.
yeah,
Yeah,
when
with
you
the
get when he
government.
gets into Loomis's car and he's following her, and you're not seeing it from his point of view, you're seeing it from a third person point of view in the back seat. And I thought that was really cool, really unique. Um, Making it seem like it's made it seem natural because obviously there was a cameraman sitting in the back seat and they were going at the speed
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
of the car, the speed of her, and it made it really cool. I honestly that was my favorite shot in the entire show.
I think my favorite shot was when she was sitting in the classroom.
Oh, and she
Um,
looks out the window and he's
and,
just standing there.
yeah, that was unnerving for me. I was like,
Yeah,
what? Like that's crazy. That's so creepy. Yeah, that was a really good
it's
shot.
one of those scenarios. Like as a little side note for that, it's one of those scenarios where it's just like, is this happening? Kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
and then if you tell anybody, like she did tell her friends and everything, they're just like, nah, you're being crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What I you turn around and it's like, oh, did he disappear?
Uh, yeah, no,
um,
I thought like I love those really long creepy shots. I think that works a lot for suspense. So, I thought they did a really good job. And lighting, I
yeah.
didn't have any lighting issues. Could see everything.
No, and they could have had lighting issues. I mean, they could have
Yeah,
made everything way too dark.
there was only one cut I had issue with, but it's not enough to say lighting was bad. No, they used it was natural lighting, like
Yeah.
it was natural lighting of like, okay, here's lamps and like other decor when they're in the house, and then outside the house they just use daylight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or giant soft boxes to simulate moonlight.
Yeah.
Oh that part was like it felt still felt like nighttime.
Yeah.
It wasn't oversaturated. It wasn't so dark you couldn't tell what was happening. Like I think with lighting, like the very early scene where Loomis is driving in the storm to the insane asylum,
Yeah.
um, and then the first thing you see is just like kind of a white humanoid esque
Outline?
outline. And at first I was like, oh, is he going to be in the middle of the road? And then several appeared, and it was just like, oh no, it's just a bunch of the patients that were outside. And that I thought was a really, really cool usage of lighting.
Yeah, I thought so too. Cool. Do we want to talk about special effects? I thought they were okay.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of special effects, really. I think the most obviously were just probably some usage of blood.
Yeah.
I honestly I can't think of really any other real special effects that everything was just down to earth and practical.
I thought like where she stabs him in the jugular, I thought that there could have been more blood, but then again, he is a supernatural being.
And then also, like, if it's, from my understanding, and I could be 100% wrong, when somebody is stabbed like that, if it's a clean enough stab and it doesn't get moved or anything, the blood's technically still like in, like, the hole is tight around the stab.
That's
why
true.
that's why they say if you get stabbed with a knife or a piece of glass or something like that, don't pull it out, because it's going to cause more blood to come out than if you just leave it in.
Yeah,
That's
true.
It could have done with at least a little bit more, I think, but it wouldn't have been like stab and then suddenly there's a volcano of blood coming out,
like Evil Dead levels of blood,
like Evil Dead or Tarantino film.
It would have detracted from it.
Yeah,
I feel too much blood detracts from.
Yeah, I'd rather there be too little blood than there be too much blood.
Sorry, Josh. No, just kidding. I thought the blood worked in Nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Nightmare. It was supposed to be.
That's But check out Nightmare now on YouTube.
I wish.
10 Horsemen.
That ain't coming out until the end of November, man.
Oh, to check it out at the end of November on YouTube for 10 Horsemen.
All right. So I really want to talk about sound and music.
Okay.
Okay. There were some moments where I could barely hear what people were saying.
Yes.
At the beginning. And that bugged me a lot. There's also I understand that the music is like iconic to this to Halloween. But I thought that the music detracted from the scariness.
There was here's my thing about that. I 100% agree with the voice thing. I think the very beginning of the film where he's looking at his older sister, I think that provided like, okay, there's a wall and a window and everything. But there were a lot of times where it felt like they put the voice on a lower track than the rest of the audio. And like that is prevalent throughout a lot of movies throughout history. Like Christopher Nolan is currently famous for like all of his movies for the past 10 years are like, who cares about the dialogue? And it's like the people who want to know what the hell is going on, they care about the dialogue. And so I agree with that. The like obviously the iconic Halloween theme, very good, very simple, but gets the job done. But there were several points where it's just like, okay, you're doing this, it's quiet, there's no backing music or anything, and they're doing their thing, and then suddenly smacked right in your face is the music. Like the audio editor didn't do any fade ins, there was just a lot of and some of it wasn't even necessarily because like, oh, here's Michael. Some of it was just like, well, here's the music, and it just suddenly starts, and then I'm just like, whoa, holy crap. And then it shows something scary, and I'm like, okay, there was some audio, like, to me the audio wasn't very well like put together and edited, and adding the music afterwards compared to like the voice, like you can with what I know about audio mixing and everything like that, it's just like it doesn't seem that hard to me to have run through and fixed these problems, because I understand they may have had a short time to film it. But like they still had an editing process. They still had a team working on this, and they almost certainly had previews of it with at least John Carpenter and maybe some executives of the show watching this movie ahead of time. And I don't know how well it translates in theaters, but me here listening with I have HD headphones on, and it was tough at times with the voices and with the sudden slam juxtaposition of the music.
Yeah, I just feel like it would have been more tense if the music was played less. I think that if they
it's iconic, but they had 3 tracks for the whole movie, and 90% of it was the theme played over and over again. And again, low budget, that sometimes it does mean like that, because I'm assuming that he probably got someone and they made that real quick on the probably shortly before shooting. It may have even happened after shooting, since music they don't need the theme song in order to shoot the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that because there was one moment where the music would start and we didn't even see anything, and then we would see the scary thing, and we're like, okay, well, the music kind of
the music prepared us for it.
Yeah.
So I think that was a major blemish of the entire movie. In fact, I take audio issues significant both in film and in live theater, and I understand audio is a beast that should be shot and killed somewhere in the fucking field, but it's a necessary beast that you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I think we've talked about everything except for hair, makeup, and costumes.
Yeah, I think I think all the costumes for the citizens and everything was it wasn't, at the time, it wasn't a period piece. They just got what was there, what was modern for the time. It's so their outfits didn't necessarily stand out. They weren't I know some movies and some pieces are they make the main characters more colorful, and it's here's the main characters, but very much that. No, they blended in with their fellow peers in the classroom. You saw an array of different just regular outfits that was for the late 70s, and you can also look at some of that fashion was obviously slightly transitioning into early 80s fashion as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, and Laurie's in light gray and blue the whole movie.
Yeah, she's very reserved, obviously, and what little backstory you do get of her is, it seems she's just a reserved person in general, combination probably because of her parents and just because some things just don't interest her, and that shows in her in some of her in her costuming.
Mm-hmm. Well, and her hair and the makeup, very minimalistic on everything.
Yeah. I think well, like we keep saying, the whole movie itself was minimalistic, and it's just I think the person with the most makeup was her
Linda.
Yeah, was Linda. And that's just because that fits her character.
Yeah. I will say though, most of the gore makeup was fine except for at the very beginning. It looked kind of silly to me. He stabs his sister over and over, and then we see a glimpse of her on the ground, and it just was fake blood on her boob.
You're right.
I turned over to Alina and I was like, wow, I love ketchup on my titties. and
baby.
And that's what it looked like. I was like, good stuff.
Yeah. No, I think the gore makeup was hit or miss.
Yeah.
Very much just a product of the timetable and the budget.
There's a lot of factors.
Although I did notice when Michael's mask came off that his eye was messed up.
The very brief glimpse that we get of his actual face, it was just okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Oh,
agree.
speaking of costumes and makeup and everything, do you guys know what the Michael Myers mask actually is?
What is it?
No.
It's a William Shatner mask painted white.
Oh, part of me thinks I've heard that before, but yeah, that's funny.
It was so originally they got the idea to use a William Shatner mask because John Carpenter saw one turned inside out, and he was like, "Oh, that's kind of creepy," and so they bought it.
Rubber masks like that have always just like been like not
Super
human.
freaky. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's so like I just looked it up
Do you
and
think William Shatner knew immediately, or it took him years to find out?
Uh I think it took him a while to find out. I know he hates it. He hates
Well,
that fact.
whatever.
have you guys
Stick
seen
it.
the meme where it's like the Halloween mask looks like Mariah Carey a little bit?
Oh my god,
I
Yeah.
think they went
that's just
forward
kind
and
of rude.
found her.
That's rude, but yeah, I've seen it.
It is rude.
It makes me laugh. It's still. I'm sorry. Oh gosh.
It's pretty rude though, but
Yeah.
you know, the internet is ruthless.
Yeah. Okay. So was
I think we've covered everything.
yeah. Do we have
I
any?
think
Do
so,
we
yeah.
have any like final thoughts or anything? I think I do. With our
Let me see.
discussion, especially now knowing that this was like a very short filming, so I became more forgiving on some stuff. I I don't know. To me, because this was really fresh to me. Um, I have no idea if I have watched the actual full movie before this point. I either watched it when I was
Really?
so young I don't remember it, but it wouldn't make sense that my parents would let me watch it when I was that young. So I don't think
Mhm.
so. Um, this movie it does show it shows a lot of things that and it always is always interesting when I go back and look because like also quite recently I rewatched after probably 10 years The Shining and stuff like that and movies like this where you look at the genre and the genre so many things are now in reference to this
Yeah.
um it I think that lowers the impact for me because it almost gives me a sense of detachment where it's just like okay, this is predictable, this is this, but it's predictable because everybody is copying tropes from this movie. Everybody is
Yeah.
trying to have the impact of this movie. And I wish I was
I wish I could go back to
yeah.
78 right
Yeah,
now
I
and
wish I
watch
could
it.
go to there's a lot of movies like that, but like I wish I could go back to 1978 and go into this movie and like maybe have only heard about it through the previews and maybe through
Mhm.
word of mouth because there's obviously no internet and even if you read a review if they reviewed horror movies you would walk into this movie and be like what on earth what the hell like
Yeah, well,
like
and like there's one major jump scare in the movie. And it's when Loomis or no, it's when Laurie's going to put the key under the mat at the old Myers house. And it's shot from like the staircase inside the house. And you just
yes
see Michael pop into frame.
yeah
Uh I forgot that that was there. And this is a movie that I have loved my whole life, but I
yeah
haven't
yeah
watched it in 10 years. And I completely forgot that that was there. And so I'm like watching and I'm just kind of vibing and
yeah
enjoying it. And then all of a sudden, fucking Michael's out of nowhere.
yeah
Scared the
and
hell out of me.
also like having an audience full of people that is just like also has a far different impact on the energy of yourself as well too
Yeah.
Mhm.
being in theaters when the entire theater are probably people who not probably like 99% of them haven't seen the movie before and that 1% maybe can't maybe have seen it once before and they brought some of their friends or a date on to watch this one hell of a
1%
date
is
movie am I
me.
right um it and like to me like the only modern thing I can think of for me personally is when opening weekend of the first Avengers movie um and the theater was packed and the energy and the reaction of it was like hell yeah and then sometime later when I rewatched the movie um obviously I didn't have that same impact. I still could remember it, and it could ride off that high in a sense. But like, to be in 1978 in that movie theater would have been something. Would have been a treat. We probably don't even experience the movie theaters nowadays, to be perfectly honest. Previews, YouTube, all these different things are so spoiler filled.
Even without trying to be, like, you're just, if you see a
Yeah,
preview for a movie, chances are you've seen
yeah,
every plot point in that
and like
movie.
some companies are pretty good with showing you a preview of a movie and uh like throwing you a bone that they want you to purposely misinterpret it, and so that when you get into the movie and see what the actual context is, it's like, oh well, that's not what I thought this was going to be.
Yeah.
But like, there's some where it's like, here's a 3-minute long preview where I'm like, here's every single, like for our previous show Vivarium, I knew every single plot beat except for maybe the last 2 plot beats. But
Yeah.
then because you knew the entire story after watching the preview, you could fill in the blanks. And and so in a sense, like I kind of almost wish I could have experienced that in a sense where even up until the late like 90s, it wasn't that bad. But then once the early 2000s, then mid 2000s, and YouTube, social media and everything kicked in, now we live in a world where it's just like you can't click on a link for a movie with or anything and get an only like a 30-second preview anymore. Sometimes you click on a link and then it's like, well, here's a bunch of people with comments, spoiler comments, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on that, where it's like, I think I would appreciate this movie along with a lot of other movies more if not so if obviously it didn't start the definition of the genre. Now 42 years ago, Jesus, like 42 years ago, this started a genre. It didn't just start a series of movies. It started like
It jump started the slasher genre and got us back to
and
simple
horror genre. Like, yeah, like, because really before that, like, there wasn't a whole lot of defining horror. There may have been like some monster movies. There may
The
obviously there's Psycho. Like, you can say Psycho, but like Psycho was in its own realm, and Psycho itself was a defining moment in movie history as well.
Psycho is the first slasher movie.
Yeah, that's why it's so defining. It also is the first movie to show a flushing toilet, which makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we should probably wrap this up.
Yes.
So I'll start the grading. I'd say with its
Just
time.
as a note, we're doing a different grading system, correct? Right, Zach?
Yes, we are. So we're just
yeah. This is still experimental, so anyone listening out there, please bear with us. Next time, I'm going to just flip a coin whether or not I like it. So
basically, in case you probably noticed this, in Vivarium we graded each thing, but we decided that it took too much time, and so we just decided to grade it at the end with letter grids. So I'll start off with the grading. I would give it with the time and with everything into consideration, I would probably give it a B- for me, just because acting and story is so important to me that, like, if the acting's not good, it's never going to make an A. But I can appreciate the defining features of this movie and the iconicness. Is that a word?
Now it is.
I don't think iconicness is, but yeah.
Nope, it's a word now. We just coined it right now.
Appreciate the art and the work that was put into this movie, so I'd give it a B-.
All right, Chris, you want to go?
Yeah. So, if we had done this podcast right after I'd watched the movie, I would have torn it asunder. But I had a little bit of time to think about it, and after discussing it, I think I'm going to fall under with Zach with a B-. the main hangups I have, obviously, is the issues with sound and the issues with the writing. There was just too many too many big splotches and blemishes in my eyes that shouldn't exist at any time. And so I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I'm not giving it a B- like you guys. But
Okay.
I am very in depth into the horror genre and the fact that this movie is an iconoclast. I am 100% coming into this. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to give it an A+. I love this movie. I rated it 100% over the top. Absolutely love it. But you guys pointed out some really valid things here, like the sound being a little off, like some of the acting falling pretty flat. So I'm just going to give it an A-.
Okay.
Okay. Average.
So
B.
yeah, about a
B.
B. I think this movie definitely, especially if you do like or even somewhat enjoy the horror or slasher genre, this movie definitely deserves at least one watch. I will say that.
I think everybody out there should see this movie at least once.
Yeah, and
And
it shows a lot of things.
To our podcast.
And what?
Yeah.
I said you should see it and listen to our podcast.
Yeah. And then we're going to do a 10-minute recreation of it where I play all the female characters.
Oh God, I can't wait. Can I be Michael? Or no, I want to be Bob.
Yeah, Zach is Michael because we can't be showing Zach's face. That we've already shown it too fucking much. Josh, you'll be all the other characters. Zach will be Michael, and I'll be all the female characters.
I got it. I could do
Jonah
it.
will be the boy.
Jonah will be Tommy.
Okay, yeah. Jonah will be the boy. Yeah. Okay.
And the boys as well. All right, you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us. We love all the support we can get.
Yes.
At this point.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Instagram, 14 Horsemen, and spread the word.
Yeah, we are at 14 Horsemen on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And
if you haven't seen Killing for a Penny yet, go watch that, as well as look out for 3 horror shorts. Well, one is a Halloween themed, but look out for 3 horror shorts that we made in November. So yeah, look out for that. And thanks for listening, guys. It's been good.
Yeah. Thanks everyone.
For listening, guys.
Yep. Have fun, be kind.